He felt the weight of the object under the driver's seat every time someone got into his taxi. A small black cloth bag sewn with red threads, containing hair, nails, and ash mixed with animal blood from sacrifices. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when he discreetly touched passengers' hands while returning change, whispering words in a language he didn't even fully understand himself, while feeling something invisible being transferred. In that exact moment, the vital energy of a tired stranger returning from work was passing to him, and the passenger would never know they had just been used in a dark magic ritual. For 6 years, he transformed his taxi into a mobile spiritual trap through the streets of Johannesburg. Every ride was an opportunity, every passenger a victim, and everything seemed perfectly normal until the day the spirits started demanding their price. Before we continue with this disturbing testimony, write in the comments where you're watching from. We want to know how far this confession is reaching and how many people need to hear this spiritual warning. This is Real Confessions, and today we bring another account that reached us by email from someone who carried a terribly heavy secret for years. We ask that as you listen to this story, please don't judge the confessor hastily. He came to us precisely because he wants to repent, warn other people, and somehow find liberation. This is not a story for entertainment. It's a real warning about the invisible dangers that may be happening around us in completely ordinary situations. Learn from this story, protect yourselves spiritually, and remember, this man's identity remains completely protected, as we do with everyone who has the courage to confess their darkness. It is written in Ephesians 6:12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Many times, evil hides exactly where we least expect it, in a seemingly ordinary taxi, in a driver who seems polite, in a simple ride back home. The spiritual world operates in dimensions that our physical eyes cannot see. And that's why we need to always be vigilant, always protected, always aware that invisible battles happen around us every day. The man who sent us this confession is now 52 years old and lives in a small township outside Johannesburg. He asked to be called only Thabo, a fictitious name to protect his identity. Thabo doesn't drive taxis anymore. In fact, he can barely get into a car without feeling a tightness in his chest and hearing voices whispering in his ears. Today he works as a helper in a small carpentry shop, earns little, lives alone in a rented room, and spends much of his time trying to find peace through prayer. His eyes carry a deep tiredness, not just physical but spiritual. It's the tiredness of someone who has seen things no one should see, who has done things no one should do. When you see him on the street, he seems just an ordinary man, quiet and discreet. But inside he carries the weight of hundreds of lives that he touched in dark ways, and that now haunt him daily. To those who know him superficially, Thabo is just another humble worker trying to survive. But at night, when he's alone, he still feels the presence of the spirits he invoked. He still hears the whispers, he still sees the shadows, and he still carries the guilt of having used innocent people as fuel for his dark magic rituals. This is his complete confession, told so that others don't make the same terrible mistakes he made. Thabo's story didn't begin with dark magic. It began with hunger. It began with a childhood of extreme poverty in Alexandra Township, east of Johannesburg, where he grew up without a father, with a mother who worked as a domestic worker and was rarely home. He had 3 younger siblings, and from 9 years old he already knew he would have to fight to survive. Many nights he went to sleep with an empty stomach, hearing his siblings cry from hunger on the mattress beside him. Many times he saw his mother cry, holding bills she couldn't pay, staring at the empty fridge with despair in her eyes. When he was 15, Thabo started working. He washed cars, carried groceries at supermarkets, did any kind of odd jobs. But the money was never enough. The poverty wasn't just material, it was spiritual too. There was a constant feeling that life was unfair, that some people were born to suffer while others had everything. This resentment grew inside him like a bitter seed. At 18, he lost one of his siblings, the youngest, only 12 years old, victim of a stray bullet in a shooting in the township. Thabo held his brother's body in his arms, feeling the warm blood run through his fingers, and in that moment, something inside him died too. It was in this state of total despair, of anger against the world and against God, that Thabo became vulnerable. The pain had opened a door in his soul, and something dark was about to enter. The change happened when Thabo was 24 years old. He had been working as a taxi driver for 2 years, struggling to pay rent for a rented car and barely managing to survive. The days were long, the rides were few, and the competition was brutal. He saw other taxi drivers prospering, always with customers, always with money, while he spent hours parked at the rank without a single call. The frustration was unbearable. It was on one of those bad days that he met Baba Mandla, an older taxi driver who always seemed to be surrounded by luck. His car was always immaculate, his passengers were generous, and he never lacked work. Thabo noticed something strange. Baba Mandla always had a small pouch hanging from the rearview mirror and occasionally made discreet gestures with his hands before each ride. Intrigued and desperate, Thabo approached him one night at the taxi rank. "How do you get so many customers, Baba Mandla? Do you have some secret?" The older man looked at Thabo with an enigmatic smile. "Secret? Yes, I do, my son, but not everyone has the stomach for it." He paused, evaluating the young man. "Are you willing to do whatever it takes to change your life, even if it's something different?" Thabo, consumed by desperation, answered without hesitation, "I'm willing to do anything." Baba Mandla then gave him an address scribbled on yellowed paper. "Go to this house tomorrow night. Ask for the Sangoma who works with Strong Muti. Say I sent you, but prepare yourself, because once you enter this path, there's no easy way back." That night, Thabo barely slept. Something inside him, a last voice of conscience, screamed for him not to go. But the voice of hunger, of anger, of desperation screamed louder. The next day at nightfall, he drove to the indicated address, a simple house in a remote area, painted red and black with strange symbols on the door. What Thabo didn't know is that he was about to cross a border from which he would never return the same. The first time Thabo entered that house, the strong smell of incense and something he couldn't identify, perhaps blood, took over his nostrils. In the back of a dark room, lit only by red candles, was a man dressed in white and red, with beaded necklaces and an expression that mixed seriousness and something disturbing. He didn't need introductions. "You want to prosper, don't you? You want your taxi to fill with customers, you want money, you want respect." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. The man, who introduced himself only as a Sangoma of a specific tradition, already knew why Thabo was there. The ritual was quick but intense. Thabo was instructed to bring personal items, some of his own blood, and to make oaths he didn't fully understand. He was told he would receive protection and prosperity through powerful entities, but in return, he would need to feed the forces regularly. At the time, Thabo didn't fully understand what that meant. He just wanted his life to improve. Before leaving, the Sangoma handed him a small black cloth bag sewn with red threads. "Place this under the driver's seat of your taxi. Never remove it. And when I teach you the proper procedures, you'll know how to make the necessary offerings." Thabo left with a strange feeling, a mixture of fear and expectation. But what happened in the following weeks was unbelievable. His taxi started filling with customers like never before. People called him constantly. Rides were long and profitable, and passengers always gave good tips. In less than 2 months, Thabo managed to rent a better shack, buy new clothes, and even help his mother financially. Prosperity had arrived, and with it a dangerous sense of power. "It's working," he thought. "Finally, my life is changing." But what Thabo didn't know is that all this prosperity had a price that hadn't been fully collected yet, and when the collection came, it would be in blood, in suffering, and in terror. 6 months after the first ritual, Thabo received a call from the Sangoma. The voice on the phone was grave and urgent. "You need to come here tomorrow. It's time to renew the pact. The forces are asking for more." Thabo felt a chill run down his spine, but he went. When he arrived, the environment was different, darker, heavier. This time there were other objects on the altar: bones, a skull, and something that looked like fresh blood in a bowl. The Sangoma got straight to the point. "The entities that gave you prosperity now need to be fed properly. You received a lot, now you need to give in return. And what they want is vital energy, life energy." "What do you mean?" Thabo asked, already fearing the answer. "Your passengers. Each person who enters your taxi carries energy, life force. You need to learn to transfer that energy to the entities. You won't hurt anyone physically, but you'll take from them part of their luck, their health, their prosperity. In return, you'll continue to prosper." Thabo felt nauseated. "But that's wrong. Those people didn't do anything." The Sangoma laughed, a cold laugh. You think the prosperity you have now came from where? It's already started, my son. That pouch under the seat is already doing it. Now you just need to learn to enhance it. It was then that Thabo realized the trap. He was already involved. He was already harming innocent people without knowing. And now, he was being taught to do it consciously. The choice was terrible. Either continue and prosper or stop and lose everything, perhaps even his own life, because spirits don't like being abandoned. Gripped by fear and greed, Thabo chose to continue. And that's when his life turned into a living nightmare. The rituals became more complex and darker. Thabo learned to discreetly touch passengers' hands while whispering specific words. He learned to mark the back seat with invisible symbols using prepared oils. He learned to observe which passengers had more energy, usually happy, healthy, prosperous people, and to direct the rituals specifically at them. Each ride transformed into a silent ceremony of spiritual theft, and it worked. Thabo prospered even more. He bought his own taxi, then a second one. He started renting cars to other drivers. Money flowed like never before. But along with the money, something else started happening. The first manifestations were subtle. Thabo started hearing whispers inside the taxi when he was alone, words he didn't understand in strange languages. Then he started seeing shadows moving in the back seat through the rearview mirror, even when there was no one there. One night, while cleaning the car, he found handprints on the inside windows, small like children's, but when he tried to wipe them, they reappeared. The nightmares began with intensity. Thabo dreamed he was driving, but when he looked in the rearview mirror, he saw dozens of pale, distorted faces staring at him from the back seat, all whispering his name. He woke up in cold sweat, with the feeling he wasn't alone in the room. And he wasn't. He started seeing figures in the corners of his shack, shadows that moved when he looked directly. Once, while driving at night, Thabo looked in the rearview mirror and saw a woman sitting in the back, dressed in white, her face covered by black hair. He braked abruptly and looked back. There was no one. When he turned his eyes forward, she was in the passenger seat, beside him. He screamed and closed his eyes. When he opened them, she had vanished. The manifestations became more frequent and more aggressive. Thabo started feeling touches on his shoulders when he was alone. He heard knocking on the taxi roof. Once, the car started on its own in the middle of the night, with the radio playing loud static. Passengers started complaining they felt cold inside the taxi, even on hot days. Some said they felt sick after the rides. Thabo returned to the Sangoma, desperate. "It's getting worse, I can't take it anymore, they're everywhere." The man responded coldly, "You opened too many doors, my son. Too many entities are around you now. They want more, they always want more. The only way to calm them is to keep feeding. Or else what?" Thabo asked, terrified. "Or else they'll start taking from you. Your health, your sanity, your life. You choose." From that moment on, Thabo's life went into accelerated collapse. No matter how much he performed the rituals, no matter how much he fed the entities, the manifestations only got worse. He started losing weight rapidly. His skin became pale, his eyes sunken. People started avoiding him, saying he had bad spirits, or that he carried something heavy. His taxis started having constant mechanical problems, always without explanation. Small but frequent accidents. Customers cancelling rides mid-journey, saying they felt sick. One of the drivers who rented a taxi from him was found dead under strange circumstances, discovered inside the car with an expression of terror on his face, without any visible injuries. The police filed it as a heart attack, but Thabo knew the truth. His mother became seriously ill. Doctors couldn't find the cause. She wasted away day by day, and in moments of consciousness, she said she saw dark things around Thabo. She died 3 months later, whispering a prayer on her deathbed and clutching rosary beads tightly. Thabo felt he had killed his own mother. Guilt began consuming him. He thought about the hundreds, perhaps thousands of innocent passengers he had used. How many of those people had their lives ruined? How many got sick? How many lost their jobs, their relationships, their peace? All because they got into his taxi, trusting, vulnerable, not imagining they were being used in dark magic rituals. Thabo tried to stop. He removed the pouch from under the seat. He stopped making the gestures and whispering the words. But it got worse. The manifestations became violent. He was attacked at night by invisible forces that threw him from his bed. He woke up with scratches on his body. Objects flew around the shack. The terror was constant and unbearable. Desperate, He sought help in several places. He tried other sangomas, but all refused, saying he was too marked and that the entities around him were too powerful. He went to churches, but felt an invisible force preventing him from entering, as if a barrier repelled him. He was completely isolated, a prisoner of forces he himself had invoked. That's when Thabo lost absolutely everything. He had to sell the taxis for ridiculous prices because no one wanted to buy them after hearing the rumors. He lost his shack. His friends abandoned him. He was alone, without money, without hope, living on the streets for a few months, constantly tormented by spiritual presences. One night, sleeping under a bridge, Thabo had a different dream. It wasn't a nightmare. It was his mother, but she was at peace, surrounded by light. She looked at him with love and sadness and said only, "Son, confess. It's the only way to begin liberation. Confess and ask for forgiveness, from God and from the people you harmed." Thabo woke from that dream crying convulsively. For the first time in years, he felt something beyond fear and despair. He felt a spark of hope. Maybe there was still a way out. Maybe there was still redemption. He started looking for help differently, not looking for more power or quick solutions, but looking for true spiritual liberation. He found a small Pentecostal church in a humble neighborhood, where an elderly pastor agreed to listen to him without judgment. Thabo confessed everything, every detail, every ritual, every passenger he had used. The process of deliverance was long and painful. There were no magical or instant solutions. It was months of intense prayers, fasting, spiritual battles that left Thabo exhausted. There were moments when he thought he wouldn't survive, but gradually the manifestations began to decrease. The whispers became weaker. The shadows started to recede. Thabo today lives a completely different life. Simple, humble, hard-working. He no longer has material wealth, but he recovered something infinitely more valuable, his peace of mind, or at least part of it. He still carries the scars, still has occasional nightmares, still feels the weight of guilt, but he is free from the forces that enslaved him. "I destroyed my life and the lives of many innocent people," he wrote in his confession. "I don't go a day without thinking about those passengers. I used them. I stole from them things that weren't mine to take. I caused invisible suffering to hundreds of people who just wanted to get home after a day's work. I became an instrument of evil, driven by greed and desperation. If I could go back, I would never have entered that house. I would never have done that first ritual. The price I paid was much greater than any prosperity I received. I lost my mother, my sanity, years of my life, and almost lost my soul. I'm confessing not to seek easy forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it, but to warn others who might be considering this path. Thabo's story is a powerful warning about the real dangers of dark magic, spiritual pacts, and the search for prosperity through dark means. Many people, especially in moments of desperation, are seduced by promises of easy money, quick success, and magical solutions to complex problems. But as we see in this confession, the price is always infinitely greater than the reward. Dark magic is not a joke or superstition. It's a dangerous spiritual reality that opens doors to destructive forces. When Thabo placed that pouch under the taxi seat, he wasn't just performing a harmless ritual. He was transforming his vehicle into a spiritual trap, an instrument of energetic theft that affected every person who entered there. Think about it. How many times have you gotten into a taxi, an Uber, any public transport feeling just tired, vulnerable, distracted after a long day? You were completely defenseless. If that driver was doing what Thabo did, you would never know. You would just feel perhaps unexplainable tiredness afterward, a sequence of bad luck, health problems without apparent cause, and you would never connect it to that seemingly normal ride. This story teaches us several crucial lessons. First, prosperity built on others' suffering always turns against you. The spiritual universe has laws, and one of them is the law of sowing and reaping. Thabo sowed pain and reaped terror. He sowed spiritual theft and reaped torment. There's no escaping this law. Second lesson, desperation doesn't justify bad choices. Thabo was desperate, yes. He had suffered, yes. But that didn't justify what he did. We all face difficulties, but how we react to them defines our character. Seeking help from dark forces is never the answer, no matter how desperate the situation. Third lesson, negative spiritual entities never give anything for free. There's always a price, always a collection, and that collection is usually much greater than any initial benefit. Thabo thought he was making a good deal, but ended up losing everything. including almost his own soul. Fourth lesson, true confession and repentance are the first step to liberation. Thabo carried this secret for years, and the weight almost destroyed him. It was only when he had the courage to confess, to expose his darkness to the light, that he began to find some relief. For you who are listening or reading this story, make a sincere spiritual protection over your life. Pray before entering any vehicle, any unknown environment. Cover yourself spiritually. Don't underestimate the spiritual world. It's real, and invisible battles happen around us constantly. If you're a driver, a professional in any field that deals with the public, never ever seek success through occult means. Work honestly. Trust in God. Prosperity that comes cleanly may take longer, but it brings peace. Prosperity that comes from dark magic rituals only brings destruction. And if you're already involved in something like this, know there's a way out. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it's possible. Seek true spiritual help. Confess. Repent sincerely. God can liberate anyone, no matter how deeply they've fallen into darkness. But you need to take the first step, recognize your mistake, and ask for help. Thabo's story is a testimony that even in the most ordinary common places, there can be spiritual danger. A taxi, something so simple, but that was transformed into a spiritual weapon. Let us always be vigilant, always protected, always aware that spiritual battle is real. If you have a similar story, if you're going through something similar, if you carry a heavy secret that needs to be exposed to the light, contact us. Here at Real Confessions, we completely protect the identity of everyone who sends us their testimonies. You don't have to suffer alone. You don't have to carry this weight in silence. Many people are trapped in dangerous spiritual situations and are afraid to speak, but silence only strengthens the darkness. Confession, no matter how painful, is the first step to liberation. Send your story to our email, which is in the description of this video. We want to hear you, we want to help, and we want to use your testimony to warn and protect other people. Don't underestimate the power of your story. Someone, somewhere needs to hear exactly what you went through to avoid making the same mistakes. Your confession can save lives. It can prevent others from entering the same dark path you entered. Be brave, confess, seek liberation. And for everyone who watched this far, we ask, share this video. Share it in your WhatsApp groups, on your social networks, with family and friends. This message needs to reach as many people as possible. How many taxi drivers, Uber drivers, app drivers are performing similar rituals at this very moment? How many innocent people are being used without knowing? Share this warning. You could be saving someone from falling into a spiritual trap. You could be helping someone trapped in darkness find the courage to seek liberation. Every share matters. Every view can be the difference between someone choosing the right path or the wrong path. Pray for Thabo. Pray for everyone who has been a victim of these rituals, and pray for protection over your own lives and the lives of your loved ones. The spiritual world is real, and we need to be protected. Until the next confession, may God protect you all.